I'm Jacques Halbronn. It's a new expression of my lectures on French astrology. If people ask you what is new in astrology, what astrology in France has to bring to the world, I think you will know what to answer now. And as a matter of fact, I will recapitulate my theory on the Saturn cycle, which includes, as you probably know now, two ways which are complementary. One way is the fact that the Saturn is conjunct every 7 years approximately with one of the four fixed stars, which are called royal, Halbronn, and Regulus, and Astrology, and Tomahawk. This is something we have already developed rather deeply, and one of the major ideas is, of course, that astrology has to deal with the women and the men, the couples, and the relationship between the population of men and population of women, which is connected, according to certain theories, to the fact that there were two mankinds originally, which lived in very different conditions, and which are the ancestors of what we call men and women. I think we have to refer to Zacharias Sitchin for certain comment on Sumerian texts and legends, also in the Bible, as a matter of fact. So this is one phase of the Saturn system. Second phase is about the retrogradation, and the contrary of retrogradation, which I call the rectogradation. Recto means direct. Retrogradation and retrogradation. And this happens it's not a cycle of 7 years, it's an annual cycle for 1 year, with two moments, when the Saturn is direct and when it is retrograde. The period when it is direct is longer than when it is retrograde. So we have these two systems, these two types of information at the same time. One which is annual, and one which is about a period of 7 years, which is itself divided into periods of 3 years and a half. The fact that we give importance to the retrogradation means that we have an astrology which is centered on the Earth, because retrogradations do not exist in the solar system from the heliocentric point of view. It only exists from a geocentrical point of view, which proves, and which is important in my work, that astrology is a creation, fabrication, elaboration of mankind, and not a creation in the structure of the universe or even of the solar system. And that is why we do not include planets beyond Uranus, because they were not, Neptune and Pluto and even Ceres were not known in the antiquity. About Uranus there is a certain doubt that it might have been known, because it's known as, it is visible at times with our telescope. although it has been discovered through a telescope, it is not necessary for seeing. It's not necessary in order to see Uranus to use a telescope. That's what I have been saying. So the combination of these two systems is very fruitful, I think so. Yes, very fruitful. And it's very complementary. And it's only one single planet and the same planet in both cases. So it's a very economical system. What it is about concerning the retrogradation and retrogradation is just the fact that when Saturn is retrograde, it is blocking, it is delaying, it is postponing, which means that suddenly, with the retrogradation of Saturn, things which were apparently going on well, following their course, are stopped. Are entering a period of doubt, a period of suspense. The time is suspended, we say. And we don't know what's going on. So it's very upsetting. The tourism is extremely upsetting for people, because they don't understand why something cannot continue as expected. There's a mystery of that. And it's a great relief and surprise when the unblocking stops, when Saturn becomes direct again, after a few months, as I say, about 4 months, let's say, and what should have come earlier comes later, if it comes. But it comes sometimes too late, because it's like for Romeo and Juliet, time is money, time is important, and people can be very disparate, full of despair because of the retrogradation of Saturn, and also full of joy when it becomes direct again. So this retrogradation and retrogradation is a source of happiness and unhappiness. And we already know the word happiness comes from the word happen. It means when things follow their logic or move, it's happiness. When it doesn't, which is coming with the retrogradation, is unhappiness. So it is good for people to know in advance that retrogradation is coming, with all the things which go with it, and that they should be more, they should take it easy about it. Yeah. They should take it easy and think, well, it's a bad time, it's a time of expectation, in the sense of we have to wait, we have a delay, things are not coming immediately. But as you know, it can be as well a bad thing or a good thing, which is expecting us. It can be a threat, or it can be a promise, a promise. With retrogradation, we escape also from something which would have come earlier, and we feel we have a certain sense of and punishment. We haven't been punished for what we've done. We haven't paid for the consequences of our actions. That's the feeling which is given to us by the retrogradation, that we do not pay for the consequences of what we did to people, to other people. And suddenly Saturn becomes direct, and then we may not feel very easy about it, because what we did not get at a certain time, we're going to get it later on, and it's not necessarily something very, very positive for us. And we could think that we have escaped from some consequences, and it was a delusion, because in fact we haven't escaped from what we have done. We just had a sort of delay, which affords us to be more conscious of what we have done and prepare ourselves to pay a certain price at the end. So there is a moral process in this retrogradation, which is in action, in work, in progress. So you see, French astrology is proposing to the world a very economical and simple model and pattern. Only one planet having two cycles, which is a dream of most astrologers, because their dream has always been, in a way, that astrology has not only to describe a process, but also to describe what could interfere with this process. That is probably why they have chosen to use two planets or more planets, because there will be a dynamic between the different planets. But as you know, and I follow the path of Occam, William of Occam, as you know, I am in favor of very simple systems. And this is the case here. With only one planet, you can create all sorts of processes. Because Saturn retrograde is a total different energy from what could be Saturn entering in the state of conjunction or in the phase of disjunction. I call the phase of Venus versus the phase of Mars. So we have a very, very pure system, very economical system, which should take the place, the room of the classical astrology in the next decade, maybe in the next year, as a matter of fact. And we cannot say that this is a totally new step for French astrology. There were precedents, there were pioneers who developed certain ideas in the same direction, but they failed at a certain level. They still introduce a certain problematic, which has been useful. So I could list quite a few names of people among astrologers who have inspired my work, since it is my work. And what can I say? I can say that the idea of André Barbeau to focus on two planets only and to forget the other planets is something which I like. It is the rejection of any system of solidarity between the planets. Most astrologers do not agree with that. They want a total interaction between all the planets at a certain moment, which goes against a real proper research. And Barbo had understood that at a certain moment of his work, of his process of thinking, he had understood that you cannot use the zodiac as a process of this differentiation between the conjunctions. Conjunctions are conjunctions, and all the conjunctions of the same group of planets is supposed to have the same effect, whatever the zodiac is. Whatever, doesn't matter if it is in Aries, in Cancer, in Libra, or Capricorn, or anywhere else. Doesn't matter. From that point of view, I agree with him. I don't agree, of course, about the fact that we have to combine many planets. I replaced the idea of combining many planets by another approach. First, I give importance to the fixed stars, which he doesn't. Barbo doesn't at all. He's a dime for fixed stars. And secondly, I think that changes, some changes, some transformations are not due to planets, but to the fact that the planet has a different action from one moment to another. But the planet is not something constant. It's not just all the time the same energy. It varies according to its movement and its position in the zodiac. So, if I agree that we do not have to consider the 12 signs of zodiac, it is a terrible mess. We have to divide the zodiac into 4 identical periods, which correspond more or less to cardinal 6 mutable 4 times, 4 seasons. Although I don't give a dime to the seasons, it's an illustration of the cycle. Seasons are an illustration of the cycle. And so I won't say that it doesn't matter where a planet is conjunct with another star or something like that, or with another planet. But my position is still clearer than that, still simpler than that. The zodiac, the astronomical zodiac, not the astronomical zodiac, the zodiac, if you can say that I mean the substance, the substract on which astrology works, zodiac, historical zodiac, starts with the conjunctions of Saturn with the 4 fixed stars. So the zodiac itself starts with the stars. Yeah? The stars are the beginning, the point of departure of the 7-year cycles, which is repeated 4 times in a complete cycle of Saturn. Okay? So I do not. The Bible hasn't proposed that sort of idea that the zodiac could be connected, or could be starting from the conjunction. But in a way, he did say that. He did say that. He was privileging the aspects of between the 2 planets you would call the planetary cycle. Saturn Neptune is a planetary cycle. It's a very fun expression. Why call why do we have to call a planetary cycle to mention the combination of two planets? I prefer to say a planetary cycle for only for Saturn, not for two planets. And if I take these two planets, I have to take also all the other planets and combine all the other planets in all possible combinations. It's not a solution, which someone like Evil Knob has done and has developed with total and extreme logic, ultimate logic. It shows its absurdity by a certain way, in a certain point of view. So, there is a depth towards Babel, but not a very, very significant one. I prefer to refer myself actually to Halbronn for his 19-crowd system, which is the same. Because Babel has never accepted the idea that the zodiac should be divided into 4 periods. It's not in his word. Instead, I made the same mistake myself for a long time. Yeah? I prefer that start. If you read my work, Piece for Astrology of 1976, there's not a word about fixed stars, as far as I remember, of so very little. And we have to. I was proposing to study when Saturn was passing the equinoxes and solstices. That's it. And one day I said, well, maybe I should connect all the systems to Halbronn, one of the 6 stars, and then there would have been aspects of Saturn in square and opposition to Halbronn. But finally, I don't remember when it was, probably 7, 8 years ago. Finally, I decided that even this idea of aspects was too virtual, not visible. So I said, well, after all, we have 4 fixed stars, so why do we get embarrassed with idea of squares and opposition? Let's speak about the conjunctions of Saturn with the 4 fixed stars. We have all 4 conjunctions. It's so simpler. That is my eureka. Yeah? And Halbronn, in a certain way, by stating that all planets in cardinal signs are conjunct, he was going in the direction of the division of the cycle in 4, which is totally non-astronomical, by the way. And this is very important for me to show how much astrology is different from astronomy, although at certain periods of its history, astronomy developed very much interest for astrology and has transformed astrology. It happened before Ptolemy, which shows in the Tetrabiblos, and it happened in the 19th century after Herschel discovered Uranus and Leverrier and Coach Adams discovered Neptune. So the relationship between astrology and astronomy has not to be automatic or obvious. And in the same way, astrology must be very careful when we speak about mythology. Mythology is not necessary to astrology. It's only a way of illustrating the astrological thinking, nothing less, nothing more. And I hate the idea of astrologer who, as soon as he hear of the name of a god, think of the name of a planet. For them, if I speak about the period of Venus, it necessarily proves that I have to study the planet Venus, etc. In spite of the fact that if you look at rulerships, when I connect, to repeat the tradition, which is, I do not agree with it, if I have to connect, if I hear that Jupiter is the master of Sagittarius, it doesn't mean that Jupiter is necessarily in Sagittarius. It only means that it's clear. Sagittarius will, at this moment, express a certain aspect, a certain facet of Jupiter, of Saturn. All these planets are just interesting for us concerning Saturn. So, when I say the Martian phase of Saturn, or the Venetian phase of Saturn, there is nothing to do with where is Venus at a certain moment, or where is Mars at a certain moment. It's something totally different. It only shows that I like to use this terminology, these expressions, to indicate that there is a major change between the time when Saturn is at a certain point and when Saturn is at another point, which is totally different. And what happened is, and I will finish on this lecture on that, what happens here, that